You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Harold Perkins is named SEC Freshman of the Week, and boy, is that justified. What a day for Harold Perkins against Ole Miss on Saturday. He just continues to have big days, seemingly every time he's on the field. Look, I can read the stat line to you, and here it is. Harold Perkins, 5 tackles. He had a sack, a TFL, 3 quarterback hurries. He has been really good pressuring the quarterback. The other part of it that's also, I think, undeniable is how Harold Perkins is altering the game. And I don't want to be repetitive because I know a lot of people have said and feel the same way. But I'll try to illustrate how Harold Perkins has affected the game in very real, tangible ways. We all know that he played 8 total snaps against Tennessee. By a mile, your worst defensive day. Now, I don't know that if Harold Perkins plays 50 snaps in that game, LSU wins it. I think you probably have a different result. The way the defense is playing now and the way that he certainly has and can impact a game with his ability to rush the passer. But on Saturday in particular, if you go back and you watch that game, LSU did not have Harold Perkins on the field for the first 2 defensive series. And Ole Miss scored in 5 plays on their first series. LSU, of course, would get a field goal. Ole Miss would put together a nice drive and score in 12 plays in their second series. That's where LSU had about 3 chances to get off the field and ultimately couldn't. And then on the third series, LSU had missed a field goal, so it's 14-3 Ole Miss. It's a very key point in the game. It's 14-3 Ole Miss. And Ole Miss is facing a 3rd and 8, and they convert. They convert on the 3rd and 8. And then after they convert on the 3rd and 8, on back-to-back plays, they went to Malik Heath in what would be first down passes for 16 yards and for 27 yards. So boom, boom, boom. Ole Miss is right down the field at the LSU 18-yard line. They're up 14-3. They're at the LSU 18. And at that point, LSU put Harold Perkins in the game. This is the sequence that followed. Quinshon Judkins ran for 1 yard. Jackson Dart threw a pass to Jonathan Mingo for 4 yards. And then Jackson Dart was stopped. He was dropped back to pass and was ultimately stopped for a loss of 1 yard. And they held Ole Miss to a 32-yard Jonathan Cruz field goal. I'm not going to say that sequence entirely transpired because Harold Perkins was on the field. But the more of a sample size we get, the more circumstantial evidence we look at, it goes to show you how much this dude is impacting the game. As a matter of fact, after the game, when Lane Kiffin was asked about the LSU adjustment, it's exactly what he said. Listen.
I mean, they did a good job. I don't think it was a lot of schematic. They started playing 40 more, which, we probably thought they'd eventually do because he doesn't look like anybody else out there. And, once you get behind on them, then the rushers can rush, and we kind of got one lopsided there, and that can happen, especially on the road.
But how did you get lopsided? And he's right. It's exactly what happened to LSU against Tennessee. The game got lopsided. LSU had to throw a bunch. They were able to bring a ton of pressure, and Jaden Daniels was sacked like 8 times in the game, or sacked 5 times, or 9 TFLs, whatever it was. You remember, it was terrible because they knew you were throwing because the game got lopsided. But how did it get lopsided? Against Tennessee, Tennessee kept getting stops. LSU was going forward on 4th downs and not getting it, not converting. And so you're not scoring. They're getting stops and building their lead. It's exactly what happened on Saturday in reverse. LSU started getting stops. After that Ole Miss, these are Ole Miss's possessions, right? After that made field goal. They went 3 and out, made a field goal, had the ball when they sat on at the end of the half, and here was our second half possessions. Punt, turnover on downs, punt, turnover on downs, end the game. There was an interception in there somewhere. But, well, I guess unless they're saying that the interception was the turnover and downs was on a fourth down. But either way, the point is you got stops. That's how it got one-sided. And whenever you're up 11, 4, and then 11 in the third quarter, and then 18, that's how the game transpired that way. And LSU was able to pin their ears back and come get them. But they were able to do that because they got stops earlier in the game, and the offense started rolling. But here's the problem for Brian Kelly. And it's a good problem to have, make no mistake. And he essentially spoke to it after the game when Brian Kelly was talking about Harold Perkins the day he had against Ole Miss.
He was good. He's active. As you saw, it's hard to get him on the field as much, but we felt like it was really important to get him out on the perimeter because he can run things down and he's a very good pass rusher. He's an exceptional player. I think everybody knows that. But within our structure, some guys lose some playing time because of it, and some really good players lose some playing time. He's a really good player, and he impacts our defense, no doubt.
It's kind of an oxymoron to talk about what a great player he is and then to say it's hard to get him on the field. It shouldn't be hard to get him on the field. You just put him in the game. I mean, in the fourth quarter, this was late third quarter, when you were still in a two-score game. You're still in a two-score game. Harold Perkins, you're off the field, and Harold Perkins commits an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which was an absurd penalty, by the way. Like, if you're going to get a penalty for saying something, that's just freaking ridiculous. I don't even care what he said. It's ridiculous. But Harold Perkins comes to the sideline, and Brian Kelly is getting in his grill, and Perkins kind of starts to walk away from it. And Kelly grabs him, and you could read his lips, and he's like, "Do you want me to put you back in the game?" Like, essentially saying, "Don't walk away from me, otherwise I'm going to have to leave you behind on the bench. I need you in the game right now," is essentially what he's saying. And by the way, even after the unsportsmanlike put him right back in, he didn't miss a play. Because you know how good he is and how much he impacts the game. The challenge, not a problem. The challenge for Matt House, for Jamar Cain, this week, and for 2 weeks getting ready for Alabama, is figuring out how to make sure 40 plays in 90% of your defensive snaps, to where the only way he comes off the field is if he needs a breather or, I'm not even going to say twist an ankle or anything, but that's the only reason he comes off the field. Because you need him on the field every play. The sequence or the formation that I referenced where you had Mekhi Wingo at left end, when they kicked Wingo out to left end. You went jumbo inside with Jaquelin Roy, Jacoby, and Guillory. Perkins is playing Jack. The problem is that Perkins is playing that linebacker spot. He's playing B.J. Ojulari's spot. So if Ojulari stays in the game at Jack and you want to keep Perkins in the game, well, then either Baskerville or Penn has to come off the field. And I don't want Baskerville coming off the field, and Penn's your biggest, strongest, most physical linebacker, but that's probably the guy that's got to come out. I really don't care how it looks or what you have to do, but he's just, and I'm not saying he's got to play like every single play, but you can have a rotation developed where you can make sure your best guys are on the field certain situations throughout that ball game, but that's a guy who we've seen it enough at this point. There's no reason to have him standing on the sideline. Like, he impacts the game. He had the interception against Auburn. He had pressures which forced turnovers in this ball game. He would have had a strip sack if it didn't get taken away from him against Auburn. Like, he's making so many plays that impact the game. He's just got to be on the field because at any point he could make that game-changing play where it forced a turnover, it's a sack, negative yardage, change of possession. You got to have him on the field. And I know I'm preaching to the choir because, man, I know LSU fans, it's the question I probably get asked the most. And in the first couple of series defensively, everyone's asking, where's 40? Well, they found him, and he made a huge impact again, and will continue to for the next 3 years. But that is not the problem. That is the challenge for LSU's coaching staff over these next 2 weeks, which is figure out how you get that dude on the field a lot more than you have to this point, because he just has to play. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.